You're listening to the Business Communicators.
Now on to our guest for today's show, and that's Allyson Neal. Allyson currently serves as the Senior Communications Manager for Reaching Out. She is a native of New Orleans. She is a Southern University and A&M College grad where she received a Bachelor of Arts degree in print journalism. She's done so much. She's an author. I think it's, 7 books that you've written at this time. She's also really involved with the IABC Southern Region Board and just helping them out from a digital communications perspective. But Allyson, we're really excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Austin. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Of course, I admire you and Hattie and Thomas and all the great work that you all are doing. And I'm so happy to be a part of your show today. I'm looking forward to all the wonderful topics and sharing my journey with you as well.
Well, I know we're really excited, about having you. And one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on is, and I didn't know this. This is probably on me for not knowing this, but Hattie shared a post on LinkedIn, and it was a story that you were featured in from Black Enterprise about an author celebrating Black family in a book series. And I read into it, and I had no idea that you had written all of these books, about your daughter, your family. I think it's so cool. And, with the holiday season coming up, people are, looking for gift ideas. And so I would encourage those listening to just click the Amazon link in our show notes, support Allyson and the work that she's doing. But what was the nexus and the background from you wanting to write children's books?
Well, I love reading, and I started at a very young age, just falling in love with books and novels and reading. So I always had this dream of just becoming a writer. But on my journey, I explored different aspects of communication. So I worked as a journalist for a while. I went to graduate school, and that's where I learned about corporate communications, and I was fascinated by it, and I developed a love for wanting to do that as well. So, the writing was always still in the back of my mind. And so I began my writing journey by publishing a book in 2001 about my community where I grew up in New Orleans. And it's like a Black history publication. I interviewed a lot of the elders in the community, and it kind of put me on that path. And so I was already writing books and just really getting into publishing and enjoying the ride. And then when I started my family, I wanted to build a library for my daughter because some friends had told me, it's good to read to your babies while they're still in the womb and let them listen to classical music and all this other type of things that can enhance their development. So I went to Barnes and Noble, and I wanted to build the library. And I also wanted to get some books with some Black families and Black children so that she could kind of see herself in print. And I really couldn't find hardly any. And so I was really disappointed. And I thought, wow, this is something that people are probably not aware of. And I thought about maybe, voicing my concerns, but then something popped into my mind like, well, I'm an author. I write, I publish. Why don't I just start writing some books and make a contribution to the lack of diverse picture books out there? So that's how it got started. I actually went online and found my illustrator. His name is Ron Florindo, and he lives in Manila. And I found him on Elance, which is like a freelance website. We started communicating, we developed a relationship, and we've been working together ever since. And so I made a commitment to publish a book every year of my daughter's young life. So she's 10 now. And so that's why the books kept coming, and I had so much going on because I was just writing one per year in case the um, the lack of diverse books never really caught on. At least she would have, this book in her life, and I could share it with other family members and friends, where they could say, "Hey, my kid can see themselves in this book, and they can read these wonderful stories, and just experience the joys of childhood." So that's where it started for me. And I've just been, promoting it online and with family and friends, but it kind of goes through those, ebbs and flows cycles. So that's
Absolutely.
what.
And I do want to turn it over to Hattie and Thomas here in a moment, but really quickly, I just think that is such a special gift for your daughter, to be able to have a book about her and to be able to see that. I know you said she's 10 years old right now, so she's probably just now understanding, maybe it's been a few years, but she's probably understanding that these books are about her. And I can't just imagine 20, 30 years from now when she's reading those books to her kids and say, hey, your grandmother wrote these books about me. I think that's just so special. I mean, have you had any conversations with her about that process?
Yes, I have. As my daughter began to grow and she was, talking and walking, and she became interested in reading herself, I would tell her when I started to work on the next book. And I would say, Ava, I'm working on the new book, and let me show you some of the illustrations. As the illustrator would send me some, I would show them to her and I would say, what do you think? Just to get her thoughts and ideas. And of course, she was very excited. And then I think one year I was showing her the illustrations and the way we mapped it out. And she just made a comment and she said, Mom, everything looks great. She said, but I think she needs some friends. I think you need to add this and I think you need to add that. And so a light bulb went off and I was thinking, wow, she's really starting to get it. And she's starting to realize that, these books are about our family, but she's also now looking at it from a kid perspective of, these are some of the things that I would like to see. So yes, she's definitely been a part of the series for many years. And as I've shared it with her through the process, she's joined me in writing. So she's actually co-written two of the books with me. So that was very exciting and very special as well. And now she's kind of doing some illustrations. We have another children's devotional that we're working on, and she has created a superhero, and she's doing some drawing and stuff. So it's been very special for her, and I think the books have really accomplished what I set out to do, which was just to build her self-esteem and her self-worth, but also emphasize the value of family and us having fun together and sharing our gifts with other children as well.
I think that is just great. As I was looking at everything, I did a little bit of research and I was looking at books and how they were written prior to that. And there's not a lot of books that are written about a normal Black family life. And when I continue to do this research, I found that the first books that were published about Black children portrayed in a normal everyday atmosphere were actually written by a lady by the name of Eva Knox Evans. And she was a white author. And she did this back in the 40s. They progressed ever since. But I also kind of did some research, and even with that research, in 2019, the main characters in US children's literature, and this is statistics from the Cooperative Children's Book Center, 41.8% of the books written that featured main characters were white characters, and 29.2 were animals and others. And so I just think you are doing such a great job, and you are in a very unique circle who is really helping to show children represented who look like themselves and how they are portrayed, how they live, how their families are, that they're just like anybody else. And that is just a beautiful thing. And I was just really excited to see you at Black Enterprise, because Black Enterprise is like the premier resource for us when it comes to whether it's business, whether it's books. So it was a big deal. So I was just high-fiving virtually. So I am just really excited about you, and I look so forward to sharing what you're doing with others. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Yes, I hadn't really been made aware of those statistics myself until recently, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. There's an organization in the publishing industry that was established called We Need Diverse Books. And that's when I really started learning about the statistics and things. I think I just experienced it for myself as a parent, and also growing up as a kid. We had a few authors, as you said, that had some books that where we could see ourselves, but it was just very limited. And so like I said, I knew that it was an issue and it definitely was a problem. And I just wanted to make a difference and make a positive contribution and just put something out there. And also, I wanted it to be a series because I was seeing more Black books come out, more Black picture books, especially when the We Need Diverse Books organization was established. But sometimes, the books, they're just like a one-off. You might buy the book. Of course, you're going to treasure it. You'll keep it in your library. But there are not a lot of book series out there. And that's what really captivated me as a child. Like, I was a Judy Blume fanatic. And so I was always waiting for the next one to come out because I was like, oh, that was so good. I can't wait for the next one. So it would keep me visiting the bookstore and wanting to read more. And so I just wanted to take a leap of faith and do that for my daughter and her peers by making a commitment to establishing a series so that they could have more books and know that more would be coming on this particular character. And so yeah, I'm just really trying to make that positive dent, and I'm so grateful for Black Enterprise for giving me that opportunity to be featured, because as you said, they do put the spotlight on Black businesses and entrepreneurs, and it's a magazine that I've been reading for many years of my life. So I was excited for the exposure, and equally as grateful for you and Austin and Thomas and everyone for just elevating the books in the series and talking about it and encouraging people to support it, because I think it's important not only for the Black children to see themselves, but it's important for everyone in our culture, in America, because we're such a diverse country and there are people here from all over the world and all different nationalities. And I think we need to celebrate our diversity and just have our kids read about other cultures and people from diverse backgrounds. And also in my book, we had diverse characters in there. Once Ava kind of enlightened me, it was like, Mom, she needs friends. We started adding schoolmates and friends, and we make sure that they're from diverse backgrounds and we celebrate other cultures. And so I think these books can do a lot to just continue to show our children how to live together in a family, but also how to live together in community by respecting and being with others. And it's really how my daughter is living her life right now. It's not something that I'm making up. I'm just sharing our experiences as a family and also her experiences as a student. She goes to a very multi-ethnic school. She has friends from all over the world, different backgrounds and ethnicities. And that is just so heartwarming to me that
That's
she's
amazing.
living this type of life. And I think that we should continue to promote it, and we should continue to celebrate that so that the kids can, model these things as they continue to grow.
I'm going to praise Allyson a little bit more and give a little backstory. I think she's one of the first people I met when I moved to Houston 10 plus years ago now, through IABC. And I heard her give a talk about how to use the different social media channels. And she ties her stories back to her personal experiences and beliefs about, make sure you're on the holy trinity of LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter as you're promoting your businesses. And she told me that, hey, I'm writing a book, and I think you were interviewing the illustrators at the time, and I was really intrigued about it. And so so I think that your books are fabulous because they're real experiences. That's not like some of those books nowadays where it feels forced. Okay, well, we need to be divorced, so we're going to force this in there. Saturday Night Live made a skit about Frozen 2 with that a long time ago, where it's like, yeah, you're trying a little hard there, buddy. And so I've always worshipped him and looked at her books as very good to help broaden the thing. You know, I'm still waiting for my signed copy, but if I get one, I don't know if I'm going to actually give it to the kids to read or to cherish on, you know, the bookshelf. So it's exciting to hear that you're writing the series that kind of goes through there. You know, as all of us as communicators, you know, part of the thing today is, you know, how does a communicator go about becoming an expert in writing a book, whether it's a child's book or a book for something else, so we can share our knowledge?
Well, first of all, I would be happy to help and give advice to anyone who wants to go down this path. I actually wrote a book myself on that. That's one of the books that I've written, is How to Write and Publish a Book. And I think that it's very easy these days with all the digital tools that are available. I write through Amazon. Because you know, it goes immediately into their marketplace, and it's really easy. When I first started, none of these digital tools were available, so I actually had a book distributor that would get my books into bookstores, and I had to keep inventory, and that was very cumbersome, you know, as you can imagine, working full-time and managing a book writing business. But now it's so easy. And I actually encourage professional communicators to write a book, because it helps you as you're putting out your messages. It helps you to establish community, and it also helps you to continue to share your knowledge. You know, it's in a tangible form. People can use it as a reference guide. So I definitely encourage it if you're interested in it. I think it's another form of communications, and it's so easy. You can either go the ebook route, or you can do, you know, a printed publication, or you can do both. So I definitely encourage communicators such as yourself to just, you know, reflect and think about what you may want to write about, and definitely go for it. But they have so many tools. For example, if you become an Amazon writer, they offer templates and tools for you to actually craft the actual manuscript. They have templates for your book layout, your book cover. They have other self-publishing websites and resources out there. And once your book is available, I think that's the benefit of Amazon, is that once you've gone through the writing, the manuscript process, the editing, and it's polished, it's where you want it to be. As soon as you upload it, it's 3 to 5 business days, and your book is available in the marketplace. And then you can start promoting it. You can have people write reviews, and you can start sharing it with your community. So it's something that I really encourage, and especially now, I'm seeing more people who have a platform like yourselves. You have your podcast, people who have training seminars and consultancies. Many people have books now, and it's just like an extension, I think, of your message, and an extension of your specialty and your capabilities. And I've written a couple of communications books on digital communications and websites and mobile websites. And I think that those books helped me a lot, because in giving a presentation or a talk, then I could follow up with, you know, sending people a copy of the book, or they could purchase a copy of the book. And I think it helped a lot of practitioners, such as, you know, ourselves, with just basic, really implementable steps of things that we can do. And so I think that having a book is definitely a great way to continue to promote your messages. And I think it's a service to the community where you're providing information to. So yeah, guys, let me know if you want to get out there. I'll be happy to help you.
You said you worked in other parts of corporate communications. What was your expertise? What do you consider your expertise when you were working
In corporate?
Yeah.
I think it was digital communications. That's where I was always flourishing with websites, social, internal social media. I was always working with something with digital communications, and I actually really enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the format because it's easy, it's flexible. You can make quick changes. It's also very visible, with the imagery and the video. So I really love digital communications, and I'm really excited to see where it will go in the future. Like you guys have this podcast, I think it's wonderful because so many people are developing the podcast and the digital shows where they can continue to share expertise and content. So I think that all of this is just an extension and the evolution of our craft. And yeah, that's where I was, and that's where I definitely want to continue because I know as we move forward with the pandemic, it has changed things fundamentally. And I definitely want to continue to work in digital communications and see what the future of that will be.
I think it's really great what you're doing to not only share your expertise and your experiences in life, but also to build your personal brand. I think that's incredibly powerful, and I think that anyone watching this on YouTube or listening to this podcast on iTunes or Spotify know that your brand does matter. If you want to continue to find that next job or maybe pivot to a new career, having your personal brand, letting other people know about it is so important. And it's okay to brag on the good work that you're doing. I think that's so important. But Allyson, I do want to pivot back to kind of your book and when it comes to representation, because I remember growing up, I read as a kid, Berenstain Bears, the Hardy Boys. I remember my sister read Nancy Drew. But I grew up in, the Woodlands, which is just a town north of Houston, and there's not a lot of diversity there. We always joked around that the Woodlands, it's pretty diverse. You've got blondes, brunettes, the occasional redhead or two at our high school, but that was about it. And in 2018, my roommate, who's from Vietnam, uh, was so excited when Crazy Rich Asians came out, and that was a box office success, made over $230 million globally. He was so proud because it was the first movie, and he told me this, it was the first movie that he had seen people that look like him that were the stars of the show. And you mentioned it earlier, Hattie mentioned it as well with the statistics. At the end of the day, representation does matter. It matters for not only people that are adults, but kids growing up and seeing people that look like them, having heroes that look like them. Why was it so important for you to not only, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but instead of complaining about the lack of books that you saw at Barnes & Noble, why was it so important for you to take it on and say, hey, look, I'm not going to be complacent. I think representation matters. I want my daughter to grow up in a society like this. I mean, why was it so important for you to take that on yourself? And why does representation matter for kids in general in our society?
Well, that is so great. Thank you for sharing that about your roommate and how that really impacted him. I think for minority communities, I think that we've all had that experience. I think for the Black community, like the Black Panther was that experience for us, like it was with the Crazy Rich Asians. So I think for me to take it on, it was risky because I had thought about writing a children's book before I had my daughter, but what was holding me back was just the way the industry is. It's very tough to break in. And also, from a self-publishing standpoint, I was really apprehensive about the illustration part of it because in traditional publishing, your illustrators usually get 60% of your sales, and I was not, as a self-published author, you don't make a lot of money. And so I was really apprehensive about taking on that type of responsibility. Like I felt like, okay, I cannot really guarantee the amount of sales that would generate a 60% royalty for someone that would make it attractive. So that's what shied me away from it for many years. But as I saw this need, I felt like, okay, I have to figure this out. So I just took it upon myself, just being from a minority community, being an African American person, and it became personal to me, because I think sometimes when larger issues are looming in our society, you do have a heart of compassion for it. But I think once it becomes personal, it kind of deepens your commitment. So I think the seed was there for me, but when it became personal and I actually had a child that could be impacted by this kind of lack of diverse books available, it pushed me to say, okay, you have to do something, you have to figure it out. And I think if I wasn't a self-published author, maybe I would have been a part of the activism that would just write letters or try to make people aware. But because I felt like, okay, I have a responsibility here. I know how to write and publish books. So I can't just sit on the sidelines and just complain about this. I'm really empowered to make a difference. And so that's why I took the responsibility on. And I knew that it would be hard and that I wouldn't receive commercial success because I don't have the large publishing companies behind me. But I just felt compelled, like the purpose was so important, that, the rest would come. And so, yeah, just seeing kids, like I go to my daughter's school every year for her career day and I interact with the children and I read the books to them, and just seeing how much they enjoy these books, how much they love them, that makes it so worth it. And the commitment to keep the series going, those kids really motivated me as well, because now they remember who I am. And so when I come, they're like, hey, we know you from last year. And I think this past year I went and I brought one of my books from last year and I brought my new book, and they were like, oh, we remember that book from last year. And so it made me think like, uh-oh, I got to stay on top of my game here, because these kids, they're paying attention and they're looking and they know like, oh no, we don't want last year's. What do you have this year? And so I think that just that part of it, is personal. And then also reaching out to these other children and seeing how they're being impacted by it in a positive way. That's what motivates me to continue in my responsibility and in what I've committed to do. And it's so worth it. I mean, for these children to live a good life and for them to have joy and happiness in their lives, I think that we, definitely should continue to do everything that we can to help them. Because, as you know, when they become adults like us, they have all these other problems and issues and challenges that we have to deal with. So I think that striving to make their lives fun and happy and to teach them how to celebrate diversity will definitely help them in the long run. I know it has enriched my life. Having a diverse group of friends, working in environments where there are people from all different backgrounds, that is the best thing that could ever happen to me. And it brings me so much joy. And I would never want to deny anyone of any race or ethnicity that opportunity to just share in the joy of being among other people and sharing their differences and all of us coming together for common causes. So the more we can enrich kids' lives and with those messages and put them on that path towards diversity early on, I think we make life a lot better for them as they continue to grow. And so those are the reasons why I'm doing it, and it's definitely helping me as well. I get a lot of joy out of it, and it's tons of fun.
So I'm going to actually bring it back to business a little bit and compliment you on using subject matter experts, using your daughter as you're writing a children's book. Hey, we really need friends in there. But back to the book. So as you're writing these books and as she's getting older and you're putting friends in there, are you drawing from her real friendships or her school to for the characters? And do you get permission from the kids, or is it like I know that's little Johnny, or I know that's Avery, or something along those lines?
Yes, that's a great question. I haven't used the real friends just for those reasons, like you said, with the permission. But I do have different kids from different ethnicities, Black children, white children, Asian children. And so the kids do see themselves in the books, and they are recognizing the diversity. But yeah, I would have to get the permissions and, with the parents and signing releases. And also the money aspect is something that is of a concern to me, because with being a self-published author, your sales and your revenue is variable. And like Austin was saying, it may go up during the holiday season, and then you may have a lull. And so those types of things, I just have to make sure that I set expectations and I'm very clear with people if they join or partner with me, because the royalties, can be very volatile with the book industry. And so, yeah, I try to keep it really low key. And like with my illustrator, I just pay him outright for the services. And I also give him, of course, illustration credit, but I definitely own my own copyright. And there's no royalty agreement, just because the revenue is just not there. But I think, if I ever grow to that point in the future, I would definitely get the right subject matter experts, as you said, to work on those types of agreements. But book publishing, I think, is challenging for traditional publishers as well as independents, because it's just based on people's tastes and their preferences. And it's a very difficult industry to predict. And so I would say you just have to be really committed, and you have to be ready to kind of ride that wild ride of the business fluctuation when it comes to your books. So it's something that you'll have to consider and look at your investment. And for me, over the years, like I've been doing it for more than 10 years, over the years, I've had those low points where, like the first book I published, it's not as popular anymore, so I don't get the sales from it. And sometimes you just wonder, like, man, should I put another one out there? But I think the mission and the purpose for the books kind of outright outweigh the profit. And one thing I did do also, just speaking from a business perspective, right after I published my first book, which was the community history book, I created a nonprofit organization. And so that has helped me out tremendously, because I publish under the nonprofit, and that helps to kind of counterbalance some of the lack of profit that I receive. And it also helps me to go out and do like the book fairs and the different charitable events and charitable giving, as well as donating books, which is something that we want to step up with the children's books. And so from a business perspective, yes, I think, if you're planning to write a book, you definitely want to look at your plan, how much you put in, how much profit you want to gain, how much you're willing to invest in your social media advertising and so forth. And then realize you may be upside down for a few years before you generate a profit. And you may even want to consider doing it as a part of your philanthropy or your community outreach and giving, if you have something like that for yourself or for your family.
Is there a book out there right now that you wish you had written?
Oh, wow, that is a great question. Well, I was thinking about that recently, about writing a book from a child's perspective, because I think the way I grew up, we were what they call latchkey kids, where most of the parents were working parents. Like there was a time, when moms were home and or grandparents were home with kids. But as times continue to evolve and change, more parents were working and kids were home alone after school. So I'm a part of that generation where they called us the latchkey kids, because we would come home after school and we would lock up the house, and your parents would be like, "Don't let anybody in until I get home." And that's one book that I wouldn't mind writing, just from that perspective, because I don't think people realize that we grew up so independent and we were kind of on our own at a very young age. And so I think we have a different mindset about how we approach everything in life, whereas our kids don't have that experience. Like their parents are always available, we're always there, we're nurturing, we're making sure they're taken care of. But I think for us, we were definitely like on our own. So that's a book that I'm hoping to write someday about how it was in this world where adults really didn't really think about kids as much. We weren't focused on as much as they are now, because now people realize, oh, they remember all these experiences. Oh, we need to take care of them. We need to make sure they're growing. But for us, that wasn't the case. We were just more like, hey, take care of this, don't burn down the house, and I'll see you later. So I'm definitely anxious to get something out there for myself and my peers so we could kind of reminisce and remember how we all grew up and we survived.
I think it's interesting you say that, because as a father with a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, I'm trying to walk that delicate balance of hovering too much, or just, unless I see blood, bone, or brain, you're good. Rub some dirt on it and pick yourself up. And so I think that would be an interesting book, and always looking forward to it. And I think that, the world's greatest social experiment is taking place right now, with all the education taking place at home. And how is society going to affect? And unfortunately, we're not going to know for 20, 30, 40 years from now. So I think I'm anxiously looking forward to that book, Allyson.
Yes, that's wonderful. I'm surprised that, because I'm raising a child myself, I'm surprised that we survived, because some of the things that we have to do as parents, sometimes I'm so shocked. I'm like, we didn't wear helmets, and we didn't we didn't even wear seatbelts. So no car seats. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just so grateful to be alive right now.
Definitely a different era that we're living in. And I think you're doing a great job, Allyson, of making, the world a better place. I think, your books are just amazing. I think you're a rock star. And I've definitely encouraged everyone that is listening to the podcast or watching it on YouTube to go out, buy your books, learn about, Ava and her growth and the story that Allyson tells. It's just absolutely amazing. But Allyson, I do want to thank you so much for joining us on the Business Communicators podcast this week. And for those out there, maybe they want to connect with you on, social media, or maybe learn more about your books, or maybe even how to write and get started. What is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yes. You can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn under Allyson Neal. And all my contact information is there, my email, phone. I'd love to connect with everyone. And I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. I really appreciate it. I think you guys are all wonderful communicators. I've admired you all for many years, and I'm so proud of what you're doing to continue to push our industry forward, and to grow and evolve as we're dealing with these challenges. I think this is amazing, and just encourage you guys to just keep up the great work, and I'm happy to help you in any way. And of course, if you want to write a book, you know who to contact. So
You've been listening to the Business Communicators.